he says we'll be fine. I'm not so convinced. I think this is also look at that lighting. Wow. I mean, I just don't. I don't know about this. It's ridiculous. Also, what changed? I turned the brightness up a tiny bit, and it seems to have changed the entire camera setup. Ridiculous. So as you can see, things aren't quite as they normally are.
For two reasons. Reason numero uno. Tom's here.
It's this guy.
I would say hello, Tom, but he's not actually quite here quite right now.
Are we actually going to keep up the illusion that he's played the update?
If we're lucky, he never speaks throughout this entire thing. If we're unlucky, he'll come back soon. But the second thing is I agreed earlier today, forgetting about the podcast, to organise a gigantic bag of Lego. I've been at it for 3 hours. I've done maybe a quarter with the help of my brother. So this is how this podcast is going. I'm going to be doing it while organising Lego, and there is very little anyone can do to stop me. But as you can tell, we're still capable of doing it. In fact, I'm more free. Look at my hands. You can see my hands. You can see all of me, actually.
No, I see my hands.
This is probably not an amazing camera angle. It makes me look quite small, doesn't it?
Look.
Wow.
I look like the Ant-Man now.
Yeah, he dresses like that.
What's up, everybody?
But yeah.
You know his real name's Kelly? I know his full name. His name's Kelly Van Act.
Wow.
His last name's Van Act.
That's not.
His first name's Kelly.
Yeah.
Like Machine Gun Kelly.
Are you here to tell us
AKA
why,
Machine.
The November update is so awesome with exclamation mark, question mark, or something like that?
What's up, everybody? This is the admin here. Why is the November update so awesome and awesome and neutral? I think is probably the best way to describe it, isn't it? Like, it really is.
Yeah.
Because I guess what we should probably talk about is more so on your side of just not necessarily being wrong about it, but having, I guess, expectations that it would do more than it did, but not in the way, because it's a really awkward thing to do, where there's actually not much we can criticize about the update. It's really everything that surrounds it, and even then, we can't really, because all it comes down to is just the fact that we're in a situation where Ghost Ship have chosen to do something that they're completely within their rights to do. At the same time, what I won't concede is that they didn't have to do this, because if they did abandon Deep Rock, that would have been bad, and everyone would have been rightly angry at them. And if they abandoned Deep Rock until Season 5, even then, that would have also been wrong. So they absolutely should have done this. And so it's not like, oh, they didn't have to do a maintenance update. I kind of think they did. But it's still, they weren't in a position to actually add anything game-changing. These updates aren't meant to push the game forward. And yeah, I'd still say it did in like a very small way. Not really push the game forward, I guess, but still do something that's going to give people, I guess, an incentive for a while. And it's also something that's going to actually has some foresight attached to it that's going to expand or help like enhance the season package going forward. Obviously, I'm talking about the weapon maintenance system, which is, I think, is probably it was the biggest surprise, certainly, when we got the announcement of the update. And frankly, Tyler's lack of focus is training my focus too. Because I'm just watching you sort out Legos.
It puts you in a focused mindset, all right? My mind is set
focused on Lego.
It's not. It's like colours. I'm not thinking about it at all. But basically, yeah. The maintenance update. considering it's called a maintenance update, it got a lot more than maintenance. I think is the main point, right? That it's like, you know, you would expect it to just do maintenance, where it did do a fair amount of that with the rot pox and the. I wouldn't say the weapon balancing is even that. I would just say the rot pox stuff is essentially the only thing
Oh
I would
yeah,
classify
I
as
mean, this
I
is
guess
what
the buffing.
this is why there's so much to talk about though, because honestly, the weapon balancing thing, because we obviously set our expectation before we knew anything about this update. We actually set our expectations really low. In fact, I thought. I mean, obviously, when people were building up to, there was a lot of talk about like a way to disable season content. I was starting to expect something like that, but the only thing I was really expecting, aside from fixes, was enemy balancing. And yet they hit that. They hit weapon balancing. They did the toggle as well, and they added a whole new system, and also quite a few other miscellaneous things that are pretty cool as well. And we obviously set our expectations way too low, but I feel like if we had been truly fair, we still probably would have come out just under what is in this update. We probably still would have expected a little bit less, even if we were like being generous. So they definitely did exceed expectations, given that we didn't. Well, but that has a lot to do with a bit of a mixed messaging behind how much time they were, not necessarily how much time, but how much they were putting into the maintenance update. I think the first thing we heard that it was about half, but now we know it was pretty much the entire team, wasn't it? Someone said that. It was like all of them. It was like all of them except, I guess, the art department. It would have been, I guess.
But yeah. So it didn't seem like it wasn't any effort at all, really. It seems like it was pretty all hands on deck for a short amount of time. But now they have, I think, they said like they dropped it, right? Almost completely. Like, if our source is to be believed, that they've moved on, they're doing Rogue Core. Obviously, the below decks implies that as well, with Rogue Core content being, what they talked about. Which I assume probably that too. The sound designer probably wasn't involved in the maintenance update.
Yeah, I mean, what sounds were added? You know.
I think that he probably, which I think, I guess that is actually something. I mean, it's not relevant, but that's something the below decks did introduce, right? He's the replacement for trolls.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, I don't know if you looked at any. Did you watch like the clips or at least anything like that at all, or are you a sack of shit?
Of shit.
Because there's just like a clip. It's like a piece of mining equipment, and the model itself looked completely done, and the sounds themselves sounded completely done. And it just sounded and looked pretty great. And I was like, and it just really got into this guy's process of like finding sounds and recording sounds, and just also it gave a really good impression of like quite a quick turnaround on finishing a sound set for an asset in the game. And it sounds really good too. So it just filled me with a lot of confidence in this guy. He already had, he was chosen he was chosen by Ghost Ship in relatively. We don't know whose decision making that is exactly, but certainly Mikkel and Soren approve of him. He has Troll's blessing, so we already trusted this guy. But his name's Joachim, by the way, which I believe is correct. Mike didn't correct me because Mike did show. Well, he didn't show his face, did he? But we got a little. Yeah.
A comment in that video, which was pretty cool. But yeah, no, it's good to know. Yeah, all things are going ahead in Rogue Core, it seems. So we can just focus on the maintenance update and enjoy that for what it is, and not any more than what it is. Is, I think, my point. Is that I kind of went into it thinking that I would be able, like, that Deep Rock, I'd be able to play it again. There'd be enough stuff, enough reason for me to play it again, just out of nowhere, and it wasn't that. I shouldn't have expected it to be that, but that's kind of the situation at hand for me. And you wouldn't say it's the same, would you, Harry? Like, you knew going into this that it wasn't going to reinvigorate you tons, did you?
Well, that's because I think that's just because I've shifted not away from it, but rather just like how much have I played of Deep Rock? It's just like I have no problem if it's not grabbing my attention at any given moment. I've always got lots of other stuff to play, and I certainly do right now, and it's just not inherently dragging me away from that, and that's fine. Because I don't think a maintenance update is actually meant to, but that does put them in an interesting position, I suppose, which is why, just naturally, I just really do want some kind of word on what the thoughts are on like how the season's going to be spaced going forward, like the yearly thing, because if like maintenance updates aren't actually meant to make the game, if they're not actually meant to reinvigorate the game, then it's like that does mean we're going to be looking more and more at sort of, you know, the idea of it going, of Deep Rock basically dying and then coming back as like a cycle, and that sounds like a dangerous cycle, like a really risky cycle. Although I think that depends a lot on how well the maintenance update pairs with sort of the events over the next few months leading into the next maintenance update, and how much that one's going to do is sort of where I'm at. I think looking at how the game would feel after another maintenance update is going to tell us a lot more, and that's because you can really sort of space out where Deep Rock could or could not like bring you in. So, you know, maybe you're not going to be too drawn to it for the next few months, but maybe the next maintenance update will, and especially with their next maintenance update will essentially just lead, it's going to be like no time between that and season 5 as well. So it's really just, and this is just because it's a live service game, and it like it is, and they don't really take the same approach as a lot of other live services do, but that's because they don't have the resources to like constantly, you know, a lot of live service games are honestly sustained by like by the item shop, you know, like a rotating item shop, and they don't have that because they won't have that, and they never will. I don't think, frankly. So they don't have something that, and they also don't have anything that they give like sort of, I guess, weekly attention to. Like, I don't inherently approve of item shops, but I do think Halo Infinite having like a set of challenges that are not unique to every week, but the set of challenges does change every week, and it sort of leads to a unique reward, even if it's something very small every week as well. And I don't think they're in the position to do that, because I don't think they want to be pulled into this really rigid format where they have to be doing the same one thing like every week or whatever. Because I think they like to be flexible in the sense that they can make a bulk of content what it needs to be at any given time, rather than constantly adding small bits of new content every week. Like, you can, because to be constantly adding something every week, it can't really be a different thing every week. It has to be just iterations on the same thing. And that's more rigid than actually having like space to do, time to do bigger updates, rather than actually like, you know, trying to make content on that you get out more than once a month. I just don't think that they can do that. Which is why you kind of have to view Deep Rock differently as a live service anyway. It's like, it's just, I mean, the week, I guess the problem is, I guess the weekly stuff should work. Like, you should at least be able to like play like weekly challenge, or both of them maybe. But yeah, it's like, it's just a weird thing to think about. But at the same time, like, it doesn't really bother me in the sense that both of us have gotten more than enough playtime out of any game from Deep Rock. It's like, it's not too worrying really to me personally. Part of it worries me more so about the game itself and how it's going to do rather than what it's going to do for us, to be honest. And I'd say in a lot of ways we're probably a bit more concerned with that anyway, because we probably, I would certainly say on average, if you average out the proportions, we probably talk and think about the game more than we play it anyway, which is still a very weird thing, but that's just how it's sort of become. Anyway, I was thinking basically what we should probably do is kind of just go through it like the last episode, except having played it basically. I don't know if that's the best way to do it. It does start with the weapon maintenance thing, which is actually fine because I do want to talk about that still. So I guess we'll just start there. Is it the first thing? No, the toggle's the first thing, actually. The toggle. Which I thought that you might be able to speak to, but if it's not actually... if you're not actually going to get much out of the game in a while, then I guess maybe you can't. But I was just thinking about how people still complain about Rockpox and all this stuff, and it's just like, you're someone who isn't able to turn it off, is what I was thinking about.
Yeah.
And if that means anything, because before we got our hands on it, we were actually pretty effusive about people being wrong about not getting along with the Rockpox still, and that they have done a lot to sort of make it just valuable and valid content for everyone to sort of engage with. And either way, I haven't had it turned off, and it's been completely fine. I haven't felt like Rockpox is anything other than a bit of variety, and I think that's how it's supposed to be, and I think they've achieved that. So frankly, I guess what that means is the people who still aren't playing because of the Rockpox are more objectively wrong than they were. To be honest, we couldn't have really said they are wrong for not playing before it came out, but now I can pretty confidently say that they're wrong for not coming back just because they can't turn the Rockpox off yet. You know, the fact that there is anyone out there who is refusing to play because they have to hit level 100 to turn it off, they're wrong for not trying, is what I'm saying. It could still be too bad for them, and that's too bad for them, you know, but they have to try, because I think Ghost Ship have succeeded in just making it a part of the game rather than an obstacle to enjoying it, you know.
I genuinely because I've been trying to actively engage with the Rockpox, not just picking Rockpox missions, but when there's Rockpox, I'm actively trying. You know what? Fuck you, and I'm just gonna drill them, because that's I think that's the main test, because drilling post maintenance, suicide. Right? Complete and utter suicide. The second you get near them and pop even one, you're infected and you're gonna die if there's a order. But with the drills, you can get away with it now, essentially. Finishing off with the drills is perfectly viable. If there's 1 to 2 glyphids, front normal ones, just dead, and you'll be half infected. And it's I don't know. That's just the way I gauge it. Is that what was instant infection, and the infection was a huge pain in the ass, is now half infection, and it will go down quicker. And if you're in the area, it will go up slower. And even if you get infected, you can hold it if you don't like doing this thingy thing. And even if you do the thingy thing, then it takes less time. It's so much quicker to get out. I don't know what you could complain about at this point. Every single element that made it frustrating, they nerfed radically. The only thing they could have done more was removing it, right? And they're not going to remove it, and it barely warrants removing at this point, because it's so kind of passive. I have to actively get Rockpoxed by using drills to get infected. I think otherwise I haven't really been getting infected, because it's just so much harder to do. And so anyone that says otherwise is just not even played it, I don't think, right?
Yeah, literally all the infection is at this point is just a movement check. It's just are you standing still or not? And if you're not, then you might get infected. If you are moving, you're probably going to be fine. If you're moving,
are you in a Rockpox spire in the middle of hundreds of Rockpox exploders? If so, then you're probably going to get infected. But even if you do, it's not really the end of the world, because it's literally you're out. It's no time now. So it's just, I don't know. It's just BS if people claim that it's still bad or that they can't stand playing it.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just not
the infection thing's always weird. I mean, personally, I mean, we're not game designers, but I personally find it hard to think about how I would balance or make fun an enemy where their main source of damage comes from them trying to infect you with something, and that's something that also disables you when you get infected, and it's also the main source of damage. But that doesn't bother me too much, because the most interesting part about Rockpox in terms of playing with that content has just been killing them. They are satisfying to kill, and sometimes it's actually challenging. It's a combination of, some of them are really squishy and sort of just fun to kill, and some are more challenging. The Praetorian's always a little bit of challenge, so is the Goo Bomber, and then all the others are just sort of it just depends on the weapon you have, and sometimes it's like it feels really nice to just shoot a shotgun into a grunt and it hits multiple blisters, or it can be satisfying to use a precision weapon and actually have to hit them, but it's still not too difficult. I don't know. For me, rockpox has always been they've always been fun to kill, so I've always had fun with them. Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is, I wonder, is this just a lot of people who for some reason just couldn't get their head around killing them? Because that part was always, and it hasn't changed. They haven't actually tweaked any of the defensive aspects of any of them. They haven't tweaked how many or how few, where the blisters are, anything like that. The amount of HP any one of them has. That stuff's remained completely the same. Because it was already perfectly fine. That was never the problem. That was always the best part of them. The thing that they've tweaked the most is the infection mechanics, because those were the things that were pissing people off. Which is why I'm actually really glad that they didn't actually nerf them defensively, because they did for the Stingtail. I think Ghost Ship maybe got the wrong learnt the wrong lessons from the Stingtail, or they got the wrong feedback from the Stingtail, or I guess translated it the wrong way into what they were going to do with it, because they just took the fact that people didn't like that it was good at everything, so they made it worse at everything. I guess in the Rockpox cases it was more specific, but I don't remember many people really singling out the infection. It's mostly just people, because it's just there's so many just complaints about Rockpox that it almost surprises me that Ghost Ship just didn't nerf the Rockpox in every way. But they knew, I think deep down, that they were well crafted in terms of how you actually attack them, and in terms of the actual health balancing there, that it was already good enough, and that if they just took the infection mechanics and they'd get it right. So
yeah, it was never about the enemies more. It was about like the being infected, as far as there was concerned, at least. And I think that has held up. And I think the only thing I would say is that the actual cleaning people have an issue with, and they didn't touch that at all, right?
yeah,
Like the cleaning box, people claim that was how tedious it was and all that stuff, and they didn't address that at all. But I think they might have. I think that might be the main
but also part of the tedium not getting infected. Because for me, that was the only thing that was ever tedious about actually doing the cleaning. It's just like, I don't have any problem if there's some bits that are hard to find. I've got traversal tools. I'm used to navigating terrain to find my objective. It's part of the game. I'm not really too upset when it's not all in one place. So in my opinion, if there was any tedium, it's been removed by the infection mechanics being suppressed so much. Also, like I think if anyone's still like really annoyed about that, they might just be doing it wrong. Like genuinely, we know how to clean. You foam first, then vacuum. There's an order to it.
Everything vacuum done in an instant, and then you can kill all the enemies after. Easy clean. Like I don't know. Well, the thing is, I imagine a fair amount of people that hate Rockpox cleaning don't do it.
Oh no, because it's a maid simulator. That's why. It's a maid simulator. Yeah. I can't believe that guy. That was amazing. He was genuinely angry that they were making clean. It's like, bro, I don't know what to say, because yeah, but it's not. It's a quite a different kind of cleaning. Where I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. I don't think we need to say anything about that person specifically.
Yeah.
Look at them. Look at them. Both get in the box. Both of you.
I think you might have claimed the box.
Cat cam. Jingle cats.
Oh yeah.
This is the only benefit to this setup. This is the only good thing about it.
But no, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't think there's much more to say about that. Really, is there? Like, it's just. I think we already thought it wasn't that bad. Like, it was kind of like people were exaggerating it a bit. Like, it wasn't perfect, but and now it's just we don't see anything to complain about, right? Like, they fixed any problem that exists. Rockpox is a piece of piss.
Yeah, well, the only thing that hasn't happened, we haven't encountered Harold at all, but
It's true.
He's gotten better. So I don't know.
I have seen these things which do look pretty good in the sandbox room, which is where I saw it. But you know,
It sort of shoots. It's like he like shoots a tentacle like downwards into the ground, and that shows you the direction that the attack's going to come from. Even though I am trivializing it, but I never had a problem with the telegraphing of its attacks, because I just assume that it's gonna what?
Yeah, I guess it was always where you were, but like I don't know, that attack was kind of bullshit. Like more than the other one. The radius one, I don't know. Just stay away from it generally, and you'll be all right. But I guess now you can see it. That's handy. But yeah, I don't know. It needed to be done. I'm not sure how well they did it though. Obviously, we haven't really fought him much since. I haven't really fought him much total, so can't say too much on that really.
Haven't really got any small meteors since the update dropped, which is really nice actually. I'm very happy about that.
Not that they did anything, but we just got unlucky, I guess. And I mean, I don't know. Not much more to it, really, is there? That's kind of my point. You know, it's like, yeah, there is stuff, and the stuff there is good, but how much can you really say about that kind of thing?
Well, I mean, I haven't seen much complaining, I guess I should say, but is that because most people have turned it off? You know?
Yeah.
They're not really having to interact with it. But if they did, they'd realise that it's actually fine. I mean, basically, what I'm saying is, it almost feels season neutral already, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, I do not feel like there's been an overabundance of live phase outbreaks, to be honest, that I've had to play. In fact, most of the ones that I've played so far have been by choice anyway. So I'm really just, I don't know, it's just fine. As in, fine, I guess sounds bad, but it is a different kind of fine where it's just like, it's just not a bad thing anymore. Even if it, not that it ever was for me anyway, but it's just like, it's fine in the sense that this isn't something that's holding the game back anymore, because it was having a pretty bad effect on a lot of people in terms of enjoyment, and you know they might have been wrong, but they also weren't, because it's not their fault if they weren't enjoying something, and that's fine. I think a lot of people. I mean, work for a lot of people. It still just annoys me. There are almost definitely people out there who just haven't bothered to even take a look. That's my biggest issue. But that's also that's like arguably straw manning, so we probably shouldn't do that. Probably avoid such fallible practices. Yeah.
Fancy.
Huh?
Yeah. It's a fancy word. Valuable.
Yeah. It is.
So
what
was the next edition? What did they do on top of solving everyone's problems? Huh?
Well,
that wasn't enough for, was it?
They solved my problem. Now, well, we'll get into that part of it actually. I think maybe even later. But yeah, the weapon maintenance system, or weapon maintenance reward system, which is already, I mean, you don't even need to actually read the notes to understand this. It's in the season terminal, which tells you what it's going to be, and I do like the addition of that. It's where it should be. Obviously, the season terminal is a seasonal feature, and it kind of is what it is. I don't think we want to explain what it is. I don't think that's necessary. But yeah, it just it just rewards you for playing with your weapons, I guess, which is already. Well, I guess it's not already a thing, is it? The ones on the mastery skins, the ones on the weapons themselves, that's from buying upgrades. So this is something else. This is to do with earning XP. I don't really know where to start, to be honest, because I don't know how much I have to say about each individual part of it. But this is just like the skins themselves, I guess, which you would actually have more. You have more of than me.
Yeah. So that means you want me to go?
Yeah, go away.
Me to.
Yeah.
Oh. Oh my God. No, yeah.
So you've got them all for just 2 weapons, though. Right?
Yeah. Obviously, like I got them for the Sarge pumps and the wave cooker because that's what I was using when I started. And I decided, fuck it, I will just do them. By the end of it, I was pretty sick of those 2 weapons, in all fairness. But how are they? But basically, I think all the skins look good. But specifically, I need new water. The Well, I think it depends on what class you are, right? Which they never. I don't think they've specifically said that's what they were trying to do, but it feels it.
I think so because just because of the circumstances. That's it. Just because they added 4 at once. That's the only reason why. But I do think because of that they thought, fuck it, let's just do them. But also the final one, the red one, doesn't look too red to me. I can't really, off the top of my head, think of a skin, think of an engineer armor skin that would pair. I can honestly see Driller being easier to find a match for with that one.
Yeah, it's way more orange than it is red, which was kind of threw me off. Because when I saw it, I was like, wait, is this the Driller one or the engineer one? And I realized I already had the Driller one. Like, well, I assumed to be the Driller one.
Well, this is why it's quite light. I do think it was deliberate, but it's not too pronounced. You know, it's not like, oh, this is this. You know, because like, even the yellow one, it's not really yellow, is it? Like it's quite pale.
Beige.
Beige
colour.
Beige.
Which was perfect for a look. That I didn't even realise when I saw it previously, but I just popped it on and like, holy mother of God, this works perfectly with the look I already had. And so basically, I'm chuffed. One of my Driller builds has been drastically improved by one of the frameworks so far. And obviously, I've got the other ones for those weapons, but I'd be surprised if I can make the really weird blue skin on the sludge pump work.
On the sludge pump? Yeah, that would be impressive.
Yeah. I think if you were to earn them on, the other characters' ones, there's probably a good couple. Like, I think, the Gunner one and the Scout one could very easily be used, I think. And obviously the NG one seems a bit iffy, but, I mean, it's not the end of the world, really, at that point.
Maybe it is, though. Well, it wouldn't be the end of the world if, if they had done a certain thing. You know?
What certain is that, Harry? I don't know.
Oh, you don't? You actually don't. If they added armor paint jobs as well. And it's just like, Harry, you don't shut up about like pairing things and paint jobs and whatever. It's like, they added a new system to add new paint jobs, right? All I'm saying is, it's just not like an unreasonable thing to want. Not even ask. It's just not an unreasonable thing to want. It just makes sense. It just makes sense. And I'm not going to pretend that it doesn't. I'm not going to pretend that there's actually a good reason not to do it. That's all I'm saying. Because there really isn't. And it would be a really nice reward as well for like getting all of the skins on one class. That's what I originally thought would be a good idea. I didn't actually think they were going to do it because they didn't have it in the original preview, but I still thought it would be really nice if they did. Maybe next one. Maybe the next update.
Yeah,
but I think it's just a.
How would that work, right? Like, are you thinking that once you complete all of Driller's ones, you would unlock the associated Driller framework, like paint job for Driller's armor? Is that what you're thinking? Like,
yeah,
is that how that would work? Would you get all of the paint jobs each time you level up a set of Driller's thing? Like, how much? Like, so just the one or all 4 for armor?
Well, one. I mean, they could keep track of that. You don't have to. You won't have to like do them at the same time. As long as you like Yellow Jacket. It's like even if you've somehow gotten like the blue one already on the sludge pump, right? But you can still. That doesn't matter. It just matters. What matters is when you get all of the Yellow Jacket ones for Driller's weapons. And once you've done that, then you'll get the armor one. It doesn't matter how far you are into the weapons themselves. It just matters that you get to that one paint job on all of them. Like, you might have not used the Sabata at all. All the others might have the final one unlocked, but once you get the Sabata to Yellow Jacket, then you'll get the Yellow Jacket armor one, and obviously then you'll get the next 3 pretty quickly. But yeah, I just think that's just an objectively good idea, and it's the kind of thing that I want to know if it was even considered. So to the many Ghost Ship employees who watch our channel, who are our strong supporters and fans, no, but who knows? Someone might be watching, and I just want to know if that was considered. And I think it should be still, because I just think it's straight up a good idea. Because it's a good idea beyond the fact that I kind of get that they don't inherently value the direct matching of paint jobs, as certainly not as much as we do. But I don't see how that diffuses a reason to do it anyway, especially for something that's supposed to reward you for sort of playing with specific weapons. I feel like sort of it's something that rounds it out and ties them together would feel pretty just comprehensive, and would actually be more encouraging. Would be more encouraging to actually use weapons, because it's meant to encourage people to use weapons that they might not normally as well. But I don't know if it would do that, would it? Also, I'm pretty sure Tyler's just completely frozen. I'm gonna have to pause for a moment. Ah, look at him! Don't do that. Don't do that. Do not do that. God, pretty shitty camera, isn't it? You're sick in the head.
We're back.
Yeah, well, hold on, because we are, but it's like it's interesting. We had a mid-recording death for the first time. Someone died during recording.
Yeah,
actually pretty
my
cool.
laptop.
Yeah, well, I wasn't actually thinking about that. I was thinking about you. What do you remember from yesterday? Sit up.
Very little.
I don't mean yesterday. What are you? Where were you?
We were streaming yesterday.
I don't actually mean yesterday.
Twitch.
I just mean when you disconnected.
On Twitch. Foul Vision on Twitch. We stream on there very occasionally, but ultimately more occasionally than on this channel now. So, where were we?
Well, I don't know where you were last with this. Literally, what I was saying is that so the weapon maintenance system's supposedly supposed to encourage people to play with all the weapons, I guess is the best way to put it. But not everyone does that or wants to do that. But maybe they would, if they get an armor paint job for doing it. That's what I'm saying. I just don't think there's any. It's so simple to me. It's just there's no good reason not to. There are only reasons to do it. It's all what it is to me.
What if each season is adding a paint job? We got 4 for like each things this time around. What are they going to do with season 5 paint job? What's the plan then?
What do you mean?
Would it not be because each of the 4 paint jobs we just got goes generally towards one of the dwarfs. Next season,
that doesn't matter.
What do you mean it doesn't matter?
That doesn't matter.
Why doesn't it matter?
I don't know why it does. They would get them anyway. I'm not thinking they should divide them up by class if they did add the armor paint jobs. The undersuits would be different colours as normal, and that's it. They would you'd still be able to tell. Maybe you wouldn't. I don't care. You wouldn't. But we get armor paint jobs anyway per season, and they're always for every class. Some of them are biased towards certain class colours, but they still exist for every class. So it's not a problem. In fact, we've had green armor paint jobs for everyone since for years. The Toxic Defender, yeah. I think it's called. So I'm just not sensing a good excuse, and I don't appreciate Tyler that you are going and get you're not that you're going against me, but just that you're not with me. I feel betrayed.
If I'm not with you, then I'm against you, right? That's how it works.
If you're not with me, then you're my enemy.
What's that from?
Star Wars.
Oh,
Revenge of the Sith.
yes.
Revenge of Sid Meier.
I don't have any Star Wars Lego.
How? That is by far the most successful licensed Lego brand.
Yeah.
By far.
It's not something we ever watched, like, ever, as a child.
Yeah, it's because you're dumbass, uncultured mom.
Mom, not me mom.
Mom.
Oh, ma, please. Hey. Lego croissant. There, don't spend it all in one place. Yeah. Where were we? You were saying some stupid shit about armor paint jobs, and I was saying that that's some stupid shit about armor paint jobs. And then you're like, no. That's what you were like. Are we all caught up now?
Anyway, so what you doing? It was the biggest surprise, though, actually, of the whole update. Surprise from aside from just finding out what was in it originally, finding out that the actual what is that?
It's the bag of Lego.
Oh, I thought it was transparent and it was like just white stuff. Was it a white bag? Whatever. You're ruining everything. It was just the biggest surprise in terms of actually getting the update, in terms of not knowing that something that was in it or part of it before getting it, which was that the XP requirement for weapon maintenance paint jobs goes up each time, and we know the numbers. Goes from 25,000 XP. This is XP earned just while using the weapon. Then you go to 30, then you go to 40, and then you go to 50 for the final one. Emphasis, but also unemphasis on final one, because obviously there will be more in the future. And our understanding, based on a very, very generous programmer from Ghost Ship who joined our stream on Wednesday, Gentle Cat, who we don't have the actual name for, which is fine. They told us that it will go up, but probably not forever, basically. But, it's kind of hard to imagine it going up forever anyway. Like, it's almost hard to imagine actually getting to 100,000. Even if it went up by 10,000 every season, that would still take 5 years based on what we feel like is happening at the moment. I was also skeptical if it would still go up each season, but obviously it will. And I don't know what I guess it would probably go up to 60,000. I guess some people, or most people, probably have like naturally expected increments, for things to go up in. So you might expect it to jump from 50 to 75,000, but it's probably just going to jump from 50 to 60,000, which still feels a little bit weird to me. It's just kind of weird numbers, but I do respect the decision to do that, because that means it takes longer, which I am a big fan of, obviously.
It's not that, like, 2 average games will get you it, right? Like 2 bog standard, 1 really good, but then it comes to the end, and you could have 2 absolutely incredible double XPs, and you still probably wouldn't have it, which is good. It means it will last longer than not any time at all. Like, it took me, what, like 3 days they were playing, and then I got 2 of them, like, complete maxed. So, it's going to take a while to do them all, even if you play a lot. Ammo efficient, XP is like an Axis Chronos, right? That would still probably take him, like, at least a week. Probably, maybe.
What
That's
to
not
do?
a challenge.
What to do every single one? I mean, I'm just thinking about how quickly I could. Well, I can't do it in my head. Who am I kidding? There's also always. There's just always, when I think about it, there's always more weapons than you think. Well, there's 24 weapons. I guess you 25, 30, 55, 95, 145,000. Overall, it's yeah, that's per weapon. So you just times that by 24.
Get a calculator.
Yeah, I'm doing it. I'm doing it.
All right.
145,000 times by 24, 3,480,000 experience in total. That's pretty cool. What would you say the average game is? I mean, I don't even think it matters. You could literally just hold on. What was the answer?
Okay.
Because even if the average was 10,000, right? Divide that by 10,000, and it's still 348 missions.
Yeah.
And the average it can. I would say the average could actually be higher than that, but sometimes it is lower. Sometimes it's even quite a bit lower. So the average is probably somewhere around 8,000, to be honest.
Yeah. So if you did like one mission every day, it would take you about a year to do it, which is good. Because obviously you can then kind of work down. If you did 2 missions a day, half a year. 3 missions a day, third of a year. 12 missions a day, it'll take you a month. So that tells you a lot, really, doesn't it?
Yeah. I want to and sort of speaking of incentives and it giving you playtime, I do want to think about how natural the decision was to add retroactive ones for season 2 and 3, because I don't think it was entirely natural. I think it was partially born out of, we have an opportunity here to give some long-term incentives, because we're not going to get more than one added again at one time. And I do think there was a partially deliberate decision made there to, we could just add more than one, and that will give people more stuff to do, because it's probably a good idea.
Having players a month of stuff to do, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm not rabid at the moment at all, so it's going to last me quite a while. In fact, I'd say definitely till the next update for me, for sure. Probably not season 5. I probably will be done before season 5. We'll see. But yeah, I do think that was partially deliberate. I think it could have happened anyway, but at the same time, the update wouldn't have happened without these circumstances anyway. So there probably wasn't a timeline where we didn't get all 4 at once, because I think the timeline where we get all 4 at once is the exact same timeline. Is I guess consistent across every timeline where there has to be maintenance updates. Just the fact that we're in this position where they're doing maintenance updates. That's the reason why they would do that. Because the maintenance updates that wouldn't exist unless we had this really long gap. So,
It worked out pretty well.
Yeah. And the more I think about it, the more it probably will work on me. I definitely want to distribute it. Kind of. I've been focusing on some weapons a little bit more than others. I've been focusing on the weapons that have the most changed about them, but we'll see. Because, I'm not going to be too enthusiastic when the only weapons that I have left to get the skins for is the M1000 and the Sabata. I'm not going to be the happiest person in the world. I'm not, there's a good chance I wouldn't do those if I had, the way I work, the way I operate with sort of things like this, I'd be more likely to get those first or before the end. I wouldn't be very likely to save those till last. I'd actually rather save a weapon that I really like till last, to be honest. Which is kind of how I operate, which is the exact opposite of what you've done, obviously.
I blew straight through my 2 favourite weapons at this point.
Yep. Would you say that's pretty definitively that that's the case? I mean, I'm not surprised if it is the case, but those are your 2 favourite weapons?
Go-to weapons on my go-to dwarf. I don't think you can really define your favorite weapon better than that, right? Like
Um,
your main weapon of war, like that. That's it, really, isn't it? What's your face?
what's my face? It's my
Yeah.
face, Tola. I don't know what to say. I don't have much control over it.
You should. Oh god, he's lost control.
Well, I mean, I just don't. Well, I don't know if I actually align with that because, okay, say engineer is my favorite class. It doesn't work because none of his primaries would be one of my favorite weapons, and I'd have difficulty saying any of his secondaries were either. I think my favorite weapon is probably the M1000.
That's a funny joke, Harry.
You know, it could actually be the sludge pump and the wave cooker.
No, I believe it, considering
I think it's actually the hurricane, by the way. Like that's actually not a joke. It might actually be the hurricane, but that's neither here nor there because the hurricane didn't get any attention. I mean, it did actually. So I don't know why. I want to talk about that very quickly. So the hurricane, Rocket Barrage was added in season 4 as like this new unstable overclock, but it replaced an old one, an old clean overclock. And it's kind of I think it's just had mixed reception. Honestly, it probably leans towards negative actually though. At this point, people have come to view it as just not great. So, and it's not actually that fun either. It's got the benefit of like lots of ammo, big fire rate, but it's also missing quite a few things. First of all, I think when you add when you do that, you want a bigger magazine as well, and it's kind of just missing that. And also, it's an overclock that just didn't excuse turning off the missile guidance. It felt really gratuitous and unnecessary because there's a lot of them that already do or partially do, but it feels justified. And this sort of sours all of them. Like you could argue that mine lay system shouldn't, but I would say it's kind of just being soured by the Rocket Barrage being so unnecessary in turning the guidance off that it's kind of just like it just makes it feel like there's more that turn the guidance off than there should be because there's one that really shouldn't. Like Rocket Barrage just doesn't excuse it, and the fact that there was a bug that made it so it had the guidance and then they patched that bug was just so annoying.
They were quite like low key about it as well, really, weren't they? Like they didn't really talk about it. It's just kind of like
yeah. Even though it's an overclock, it was a new overclock for season 4, so there is lots of discussion about it that they could look towards and see that it is leaning towards just not being good or picked very often. So
accidentally buffed, and then they nerfed it again. It's just a bit odd.
Yeah,
it's just a bit odd.
A bit silly, a bit silly.
It's silly.
It's silly beans. But I think before we get onto weapons, we need to talk about the enemies, not the Rockbox ones, the other two. The Skeptic and the Stingtail. Well, the Septic Spreader, I mean, it's kind of not much of a change, really. And if it is, I mean, obviously it is a change, but it's only a good one. The Septic Spreader was already in a pretty good place, and this just means that it's this sort of just balances out. This makes sure this is, in my opinion, a really smart decision because what it does, it shows a dedication from Ghost Ship to the Spreader doing what it's supposed to do, but also balancing that. They didn't remove the fact that it can attack you from behind terrain because I think they understand and believe that that's a part of its identity as an enemy. That's what separates it from other spitters. An acid spitter has to be in line of sight to be able to shoot you because it's not a mortar. In fact, an acid spitter is almost always exposed because they stick to the walls and ceilings as well, so they're never hiding amongst other enemies. But the Spreader had that. And I'm really glad that they stuck with that as well. I think that's so important, but they still have a way to counter it even when it's doing its thing of attacking you from behind cover. So it's very simple, but I just respect the hell out of the decision because it shows just a dedication to what the Spreader's supposed to be. and it's very simple.
Yeah.
And they also understood that it was fine in every other way as well. I think they saw the only complaint, and they were like, well, it was meant to do that, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't be able to counter it still. And in my opinion, that's just a much more engaging and that's just a more conducive to fun way of balancing enemies. So it's just like, make it counterable. Don't make it a weak piece of shit.
Like,
which you could say about the Stingtail.
yeah, I think that's great to build up to that. Yeah, it's like it's the difference between like adding weaknesses and then just adding, like counters. Like that is like, and they went the counter route for the spreader, and I think generally it's pretty respective. But they for the Stingtail just went the weak route. They just nerfed everything, when they could have gone for the counter. Like you can shoot its tail and like break it or like just like snap it back or some bullshit, right? Like something like that. But no, they nerfed damn near every single part of it, right? Like, is there a part they didn't quite touch? Its damage? They didn't actually nerf its direct attack damage.
I don't think so, and they definitely didn't need to. I would say though, in general, I saw a take that I think I do agree with, and that it's kind of just in general for the position that the Stingtail was in, and for the position that Ghost Ship are in. Now, this isn't excusing it. I think they could have done a better job, but it's still better like this than it was before. If they're not going to be able to do anything for the next 3 months, basically.
Yeah.
Someone said it's basically better being undertuned than overtuned. It was overpowered. It's better for it to be underpowered for now than be overpowered. When they can't tweak it any further, which might be. I don't think they inherently operate this way, but there could be an element of, well, if we just make sure it's not going to be a problem, then that means we're safe for a while. In a way, it means if we can't actually like really balance it properly before we have to take off again, it's not gonna be a problem, But at the same time, would you expect them to come back to it anyway? Because I'm leaning towards just not, almost just like people hated it when it was strong. What are we gonna do? It's like, yeah, it could be a bit stronger, but it's just too awkward, But then it's like, how justified are we in complaining about it being too weak? Is that a fair thing to do?
Yeah.
Well, yes, because there's a middle ground. So yes, but it is justified. But I can see the conundrum. Is what I'm saying. I can see.
Yeah, I think obviously, it's better to just leave it weak for now. But I think coming back to it, like, I don't know, next maintenance patch, which I think they were thinking about, right? Or like, at some point in the future, just like buff one part of it, like significantly. Like if you're really attached to the quicker pulling, like VR guest, although as far as I can tell, its pulling is not that slow still. It still attacks fairly frequently.
Yeah.
But if you really wanted to maintain the armor or maintain the health or just maintain something, or bring it back to where it was, then I think that is preferable. Just buff one of the areas to where it used to be, or maybe slightly further, with like the other 2 areas being nerfed, and just have it be a specialist like you would expect it to be, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, based on from my experience with it, now it's been changed. I sort of got this impression that it feels more like in a vacuum, it feels a bit more like a pest enemy, a bit more of a HVT. Because the problem with the Stingtail, it was overtuned in the sense that it was a HVT that was tanky. Like, oppressors you could and Praetorians, you could call them HVTs, but they're slow. Right, they're slow and easy to, well, not easy to hit in the oppressor's case, but they're slow and easy to, as long as you're not in a position where you have to hold your ground, you can make them not a problem, but by just running away, right? Stingtail, really tanky and really oppressive, and you couldn't escape it. Really, it was But which is why I think the actual health aspect of things was actually correctly approached, where it's something you can take care of quickly if you need to. Especially because unlike a lot of other like high value targets, like even the spreader, which stays on the ground, it still is like it's like tall, you know. And the same with the warden; they're tall and they have like pronounced weak points. And then the other HVTs are usually things like spitters, and that includes menaces. They're always in a position where you can actually hit them. The Stingtail, I almost forgot my original point, but the Stingtail does kind of stay in the same position as like enemies like guards and things like that. But it usually stays a little bit further back because it is pseudo ranged. But that means it's kind of well, but
Like,
and this is why I'm saying I don't think in terms of making it weaker, like to damage, I think that was correct. And I also think the philosophy of removing the health scaling was interesting because we got an actual answer on this directly. On that stream on Wednesday, that programmer, Gentle Cat, told us that the philosophy behind removing health scaling for like more players was because it's meant to be balanced for like 1v1 scenarios. But the problem with that is it's not always a 1v1. In fact, I would say in most situations it's all dwarves versus one Stingtail, which is why in its current state, I think actually having to be a little bit more frequent would actually be what they need. Because that means they actually are going to affect you. It's so easy to kill them now before they get even a chance to try a second time, and it's harder for them to actually succeed the first time they try and attack you. And you should be able to stop them, but it shouldn't be so easy. I think maybe they should be able to attack you quicker the first time they try and attack you. I think that first one should be quite difficult to avoid. Like it's almost like a special, right? Where it's like the very first time they try and attack you should probably be very hard to avoid. You know, the way you're supposed to do that is the way you're supposed to avoid that, in my opinion, should be to disrupt them. But aside from that, I think, I don't know. I still hold that in a lot of ways they're better off this way than before in terms of overall enjoyment. I was, towards the end of, I guess, towards the end of the previous update, not the end of season 4, but we've obviously moved on from that as an update. But towards the end of the last update, they were just annoying. They weren't fun to fight. They actually just weren't. And maybe they're not fun to fight now, but at least they're not annoying. So it is better. It is better, but
not ideal, really.
But not what?
Considering it's not ideal.
No, maybe not.
We just got 2 new enemies to the normal pool. One of them is now pretty damn sweet, right? Threatening when it needs to be, goes down like a sack of shit when it needs to be. But this other one has been both too much, right? Now is basically be a nothing addition, right? Like it's not really going to be that big deal most of the time. Maybe sometimes it might pull you up and kill you with bullshit, right? Like that's still on the table. That's not been fixed. But it's just I don't know. It seems like the Stingtail calling concept might not have been an easy thing to execute in the game generally.
No, it might not be, but it just kind of just speaks to how, I guess, just how much coverage the normal enemy pool has. Basically, it's really hard to fit something in that like stands on its own, but also isn't a piece of shit to deal with. Because like that's the conundrum I can imagine happening when they're trying to create new enemies for the general pool, which is why on principle I don't have an issue with when they want to make new enemies. They are done in this sort of new faction bubble type of way, because it's clearly very difficult to add them to the normal pool, and I can see why. But obviously one of them worked and one of them maybe just didn't. I'd really love them to see. I do want them to try again, in the sense that I do want more tweaking to be done, just to see if it's possible. Because I think it's not really fair on it or them to have this enemy that they worked on not fit in when so much of like the enemy pool is just really well designed to work well together and every enemy serves their purpose. I want it to work. You know, I'm not the kind of guy who just wants content that I don't like to just be blitzed. You know, I don't think either of us are. I want it to work because I respect so much what they've already done, and I respect that it's something that they want to work as well, and I respect them. So, out of respect for themselves, not to overuse the word respect, but we are. I want them to, you know, be persistent like they always have been. But the problem is it's awkward because they've had to be like persistent before with like Rivals and Rockbox until it's just like, okay, we just got to turn these things down. But you know, the first actual real big balance changes to the Stingtail just completely brought it down. So I think you can just why don't you just slowly work your way back up and just stop right before it gets too strong like that. I don't know if that's a process that could work. You know, really gradually, maybe even like you know, half the stats at a time. Maybe not even like the full changes, but like just bring back the things that you changed really slowly and just stop once it's like there. You know, that could work. Which is like sounds stupid as hell. It's like let's just start like basically playing the recording backwards, and it will stop when we find what we want to find. You know, so it's like going back through footage to like find something. But yeah, I don't know. I just think it's not quite there because no enemy is underpowered, really. When you think about it, I don't think there's any underpowered enemies aside from the Stingtail right now. You know, so
yeah, it's like a new concept which I'm not sure they've ever really dealt with before.
Yeah,
like all enemies can be oppressing in their own ways if they were meant to be, right? Like grunts are not meant to be oppressing ever, really, but like everything else can be and is often.
Yeah, I'm not even sure if there's an enemy that's even slightly underpowered. To be honest, aside from the Stingtail. Like I'm actually trying to think of one. I guess like even exploders. Like I was thinking about exploders because they're really easy to see and really easy to kill, but you know I think they still serve their purpose perfectly. And that's the thing that makes something underpowered. It's not just you know it's too weak, it's too easy to kill. It's just like can it do something? And if the Stingtail can't do anything, if it can't serve a purpose in the swarm, then it's too weak. I'd say the only one that boards on that is a Brundle, but even then, a Brundle at least serves the purpose of just being a bit more persistent than other Mactera, which isn't inherently defense. I do think the Brundle is one of the few enemies that we are critical of that's been around for a while. But yeah, that's the Stingtail.
It is an odd dilemma that Ghost Ship has found themselves in. With this edition of the Stingtail. And they've tried. Well, actually, I'm not sure if they tried. It does kind of feel like they were like, fuck it, nerf it into the ground, right? Like, I think there is an element of that here, where they just simply just said, screw it. They just nerfed it, right? Which you can't really blame them for, I would say.
I don't blame them for the principle of just like, let's just nerf it. Let's just make it a non-problem, right? But I still... This is why I'm partially convinced by the idea that they just wanted to just kick it off its pedestal so they don't have to think about it. Because I think they were probably worried about, you know, if we only tweak it a little bit and it's still too overpowered, how long is that going to take? Are we actually going to be able to get it into a good place before we have to take off again? You know, like genuinely. I think it could be a part of it, and it's like a safe move, you know. That's what it is, and I think playing it safe is a perfectly reasonable thing to do right now for them. Perfectly, yeah. So I just don't blame them, you know. And this is once again this is what we call rational thinking, right? Like we don't blame them, but that doesn't mean it was like, you know, the most perfect decision in the world as well, right? Because we've got big brains, right? We can think that way. We can think we can respect the decision and be critical of it at the same time. Crazy, I know, but you know, someone's got to do it. We are the thinker. We are the thinker, bro. We are the thinker.
Yeah.
But there was one more, I guess two more. They sort of bumped into one enemy tweaks that we completely glossed over. Well, not glossed over, but I guess we would have forgotten about if I wasn't looking at the patch notes. For the Frost Bomber and Praetorian.
Right. Yeah.
Now, I'm not bringing it up because it's hugely impactful. I'm bringing it up because it's nice. And I want to combine this. I want to do this in one. So I'm going to draw on a bit of the weapon balancing and a bit of the miscellaneous stuff and this. I'm going to bring them all together into one point, which is... So they actually made the Frost enemies do damage. They actually changed an actual status effect to let it work on enemies that it couldn't before. And they actually added some new loadout icons. This is the stuff that we like to see. This is the stuff, isn't it?
This is like the golden mist kind of area where they just do slight little things that just completely just improve the experience as a whole.
Kind of even generally. This is a bit less retroactive, but even adding like the arcade machine to the Miner's Manual, you know, even that. It's just these little things, but it is more particular in the sense of actually looking back and making change. You know, like addressing things that might be oversights, and is their ability to actually go back and change something. Almost like I would almost admitting that it's an oversight. You know, like the electrocution thing in the trailer, where it's like they literally use the words "they can now be properly electrocuted." That almost feels like admitting it's a bit of an oversight, or it's like not an oversight because it's something that they probably was probably deliberate at first, but they probably did come to realize that it's like just because it wasn't an oversight doesn't mean it isn't the same. It doesn't mean it's not the same as an oversight. It's arguably equivalent to an oversight in terms of like how it doesn't make sense anymore, you know. Yeah. And then the icons thing is its own thing as well, where it's just like that's not an oversight because it's a feature they added, and they added a decent selection at first, but now it's just like let's just add more because it's been a while, and I think it's something that people request. And then I would say the Frost Enemies one, that probably is an oversight though. That probably is an oversight.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's just the going back kind of thing, and this update does a good job of just it goes forward. It tackles things that are very recent, and it also addresses things that are long-standing as well. It dips its toes into all sort of three things that you want to see from an update. And I just think, you know, it doesn't matter how big or small it is. I just think that alone exceeds my expectations for a maintenance update. That even if it's not loads in every area, it's still ticking all the boxes, even if it's not doing loads in every single one. I just like that. I just like that, you know. It's just nice. It's just...
Yeah, it's good to know that they nailed a maintenance update. You know, because they never had to do one before. Which I haven't really thought about the fact that, you know, like people keep asking for maintenance updates, but we were always like, the game doesn't really need it, and I think they were like, the game doesn't really need it. Yet ultimately, even though it wasn't really the purpose, they have now made a maintenance update, and it's gone pretty well. You know, so maybe those people were right. Maybe the game did need a maintenance update. Probably not in the way that they thought. They probably assumed that they would do like a season based on maintenance. But,
well, that's kind of that is what we were gunning for, really. We were like,
well, that
we kept saying, like, it was like Ghost Ship, you can just do a season that does these things. You know, basically what the maintenance update did. I think one of my, I'm not sure if I ever actually put it out there, but you know, I definitely wanted to do something where we just got into actually coming up with ideas for seasons, not in just the sense of just like throwing ideas against the wall of like, oh, I want to see like time travel. It was more like thinking of what kind of season the game actually needs, and I was going to propose part of the seasonal focus as being a new kind of system, something like what Axis Chronos mentioned. That could almost be a major feature of a season. It's just like, well, it doesn't have to be, because the truth is, they are just more flexible. It's so weird that they're more flexible now, though, when they have less time to work on the game. But it's
Yeah.
almost like it's almost an aspect of limitations do have. What the fuck was that?
What was what?
I don't know. It's just a really
Sound?
sharp sound. Yeah, I think it came from you. I think it came from you.
He's
Oh,
got,
that
you know
was the
those
cat.
things where it's like a circle with the ball in it, and you keep hitting it. He's playing with that.
All right, whatever. It's just I just think limitations are underrated as a way to get good results. Basically, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because it happens a lot. Honestly, in the creative fields, I'd argue more often than not, limitations are a benefit. In quite a broad sense, there's obviously caveats there. Too many limitations limits creativity, but being completely unlimited damages it as well. You know, too much freedom does not breed a good result necessarily. Yeah, having lots of creativity is nice, but you do have a task. You know, it's basically what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You have something you need to do, and if you're given complete free reign, then you might not be as focused as you need to be. And I'm already liking the idea of there being just a twofold sort of development cycle where they can do both at sort of different times, and I'm already feeling like that's pretty good for the game. Or say no, for playing the game, because one thing we've observed is that this isn't going to. It's not going to get new players. Basically, that's something that we sort of figured out. The maintenance update's not going to really bring in new people. It's probably not going to increase sales. It can't add DLC with these updates. They can't, and they won't. And that's not me like saying like you. It's not me saying like don't do that. It's me saying I know they won't because it's just obvious.
Yeah.
But it's still just like it's more than making the best of a bad scenario as well. It's more than that. It's just like this is what we can do right now, but it is also what the game needs right now. It's both of those things, and it's a very actually fortunate circumstance to be in that they're in a position where they actually have to take this approach to Deep Rock, whereas I don't think they would have done if they weren't in a position like this. So I just think it's weird. I wouldn't say it's a perfect storm. I personally just wish that they were just a bigger company that could just do more because I'm selfish and greedy. But I do think they are making a lot of smart decisions still. And I don't know. I just respect what they're doing at the moment. But I don't know if you wanted to touch on any of those changes further. Because it's like just those three changes. If you had any specific thoughts, because we haven't really, it's like foster tax, sure, whatever. But like the icons are kind of cool, especially with the because the loadout icons, they added all of the mission icons, but they added the little shield. The shield wasn't there before. There's the little bonus one,
Yeah. I don't know why they didn't mention that. Like it was definitely of note, But I don't know. It was just good. It just felt like they knew the game that they made, right? That they sat there, looked at their game, and were like, "All right, here's just a bunch of things." And I think
well, they also looked at please fix and like just basically went down the list of like the biggest problems as well. They did that too.
Up there as like one of them, I would imagine,
It
right?
probably was, yeah, for sure.
Because it's one of the longest spoken things. Like no one really even bothers at this point, but it's probably been on there for a while. But whenever anyone notices it. But yeah, I don't know. It is just that the game is better now, right?
Yeah.
It's better. It's more replayable. Like there's more stuff to do. Even if you've done everything. The future is still looking good because they've talked about like the next maintenance, and that looks like it's going to be pretty fire, like with the stuff they suggested. And obviously the expectations.
We'll talk about that another time. But if it is, if it just hits these two things, one of those things is just lots of weapon balancing, by the way. And based on what we know, there is going to be more in that update than in this one, which already is a nice thing to hear or have read. I think we might have gotten that in text form, but I like that because it's just like it makes it feel. It gives me the nice feeling that this update, it wasn't necessarily them being like, oh, this is like all the weapon balancing that needs to be done still. It didn't feel like, a part of it felt like that. It sometimes feels like that when it's quite focused, you know? When it doesn't, when it's not quite broad across all the different classes, it feels like them just being like, this is it, right? This is what we need to do, right? The weapon balancing's done now, right? It's like, no, especially when they say something like there's going to be more in the next update. It's just like,
Yeah.
like,
I mean,
yes.
they something. I watched the dev stream. I think it was on Thursday, and someone asked about the perk system. You know, as people do.
Yeah.
They said a normal response in that, you know, like they know it's one of the most dated systems, but they, you know, it's like they don't really know when to get round to it, and even if they did, they don't really have an idea of what they would do. But he did say that, like, if they figured it out, it could be in the next maintenance patch. Like, it's not actually something that they're, you know, that is a season thing. Like, it's gonna be that big. Like, you know, they alluded to it being possible to do for a maintenance patch.
So,
Which either
would you? I want to ask about that just really quickly. I think, actually, you know what? I'm not going to ask you. I think I'm just going to speak for everyone. If that is, if that has to be the only thing in that update, we'll take it, won't we? We'll take it.
Yeah.
But of course we would.
Yeah.
But I do, yeah, I mean, we'll get into that because that actually gives me like a really nice picture. I thought about that. I was thinking like, okay, let's look at this update, right? Okay, let's look at when the next one is. If it was the only thing that they were doing, could they do it? Yeah, I think they probably could. I think they have the time to do it, certainly. If they can figure it out, then it can fit within it. Because I think we kind of know it doesn't need to be drastic in the sense that I don't think whatever happens to perks, I don't think it's going to have a massive effect on the ones that we have and how they work necessarily. I think it's going to have a lot more to do with the process of getting them and the use of perk points and things like that. I want it to be combined with some perk balancing. I think there's stuff to be done there, especially with sometimes like folding certain ones in. Like, I know Dash is kind of overpowered, but you know, certain like balancing things like, you know, adding second wind as a passive to Dash, for example, things like that. Like, there's perk balancing that I want to see as well, but I think it's mostly, I don't think it's inherently going to be new perks, which is a good thing. And I think whatever they do, I want it to allow for new perks. So certainly that would be the golden path, I suppose, that they sort of overhaul the perk system in terms of how they're acquired and progressed, and that it's just a more comprehensive system that could potentially allow more to be added afterwards. So I don't know. I just like the sound of all of that. It's, you know, even if we don't get that, whatever it is, I am just being more and more validated in being really. I don't like to use excitement until I know what something is, but really positive intrigue towards the next one. It's just a real good high. Like, I'm really interested in the next maintenance update because it's just a big question. Like, what are they going to do? Well, there is some stuff they could do, basically, and whatever it is, I think it's going to be a surprise still. And it's not going to go down like, it's not going to be like a wet fart of an update. I was thinking at first, maybe it's like, because, you know, it might just be a couple more fixes in weapon balancing, but nah, that's not going to go down without people. People are going to know about that one. I think it's not going to be. It's not going to be a small. It's not going to be a small deal. Basically, it's not.
Just do that thing. Ultimately, it's within months of season 5, which, you know, within months of that will start being teasers. So it'll be like the maintenance will come out, and then within a month or two, we'll start seeing teasers for 5, and it's like, oh well, at that point, you know, it's like that close to the.
It's why I'm not worried, and why you shouldn't be worried about I'm not swooning over the idea of playing Deep Rock right now, but I just don't have a problem with that because I see things getting better, even more so from here.
And like, it's just pretty crazy, considering you know, it's not even what they're working on. Like, with the games,
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I want. Well, also we do need to talk about weapon balancing. Obviously. But we'll see how much you can do. Now we don't have to actually that much because obviously there will be a video on this. We've got some stuff to do, but we're still going to talk about it in a sort of broader sense. And obviously, I brought up the electrocution changes. So the only change, what that change was just making it so you can electrocute dreadnoughts and oppressors. And I do, by the way, I think you were correct in what you were saying that it's more the oppressors one is more impactful, but I think that's obvious when you think about it. But I mean, I'd probably say it's equal. Though I think a whole mission type is pretty significant, and also we don't play deep dives. I think you need to remember that as well. But basically, what this is, even if it's like, yeah, it's only a few specific enemies, but this was the thing that was making electric single target damage builds feel foolish. Basically, it's just like but what I mean by that is, and this is why the dreadnought thing matters. It felt kind of foolish to have what's supposed to be a single target build, but you can't take it into elimination. Hey Joe Spice, do you want to talk about electrocution?
No, not really.
I did. What?
Well, what have you tried it out on so far?
No, because I wanted to make my actual point. The point I was making is when it just a single target build, if you can't take it into elimination, it feels pretty bad.
Yeah.
And this means the things that couldn't do that before sort of can. And it's very biased towards engineer, by the way. Because I've realized something. The biggest benefit to this is the ability to get certain electric damage bonuses against oppressors and dreadnoughts. Well, no, because the thing about Scout is Scout already has quite a few ways to electrocute those enemies.
I guess, yeah, actually.
It will come into play sort of with some more like generalist like Drac builds, I would say, because Drac has an electric upgrade, so it's very commonly a part of it. And electrocuting focus shots as well, but the two of his grenades could already do that. They're the two grenades that he has the most of as well, and you could do it with taser bolts as well. So, and it's affected Gunner a little bit, only because that's also the coil gun is a weapon where there's an electric upgrade, so it's quite common. So it has an effect, like it has a recurring effect there. You notice that because a good chance you have it equipped. But yeah, quite biased towards engineer because obviously that's well, we thought that's where they were putting most of their eggs, and they did. It's just that the stubby is not. I guess the surprising thing is that the coil gun has been more improved than the stubby, and that's something that no one really expected. By the way,
yeah,
and this is just not even arguable. The fact that they just overhauled the coil gun is welcome, but no one expected it. But that's because everyone forgot about it. That's because everyone. So can't blame them too much for that, really. It would have come up, afterwards, right? We were already thinking like it's got to be either the stubby or the Zukovs, and it's probably going to be the stubby because that gets focused on a lot as one of engineers' primaries. It's kind of been the lesser of the three for a while. By the way, I was already on the road to this opinion anyway because I like how the stubby feels. At least I'm definitely on the road to it actually possibly being my favorite, but. The problem with what was done here, or the only problem, I would say, what was missing from the stubby just as much as it being too weak was that it wasn't quite interesting enough. I think it just deserved a bit of more. Well, it just deserved, the Sabata got that, I would say, right? Or at least it got a kick up in terms of intrigue.
Yeah.
It the very least got that. But the stubby didn't go up in any way in terms of how interesting it is. That's the only problem. And the Sabata was very fucking boring before, but it still had interesting things added to it. So how weird and exciting it was to use did go up. It did go up. And the stubby, it just hasn't. You know, armor breaking fine, I guess, but that's not interesting. The most interesting thing was that I guess they added range indicators to the turret overclocks, but also they made it. I don't know. This is the weirdest part. This is once again, not reiterate. We haven't really said this. The whole updates, everything in it is good. There's not a single actual bad change here. This is the area where I probably am the most sort of like, maybe this, not that this was the wrong approach, but maybe you didn't nail this one. That's all it is, basically. The stubby, in terms of, you didn't nail it in the sense of maybe this isn't what you needed to do. I would say the best thing, probably the buffing the damage mods. That's actually made it really nice in the sense that it's not dominated by the ammo at all. You can balance it out. There's actually a really good middle ground where you get the most damage by taking 1 ammo and 1 damage. You get the most total damage by taking 1 ammo mod and 1 damage mod. And you get... Well, actually, I need to check this. I'm going to check it for just a basic build, basically. So I'm not going to snap on, like, the more ammo or anything. Stubby... okay, so ammo, both 2 ammo, 2 damage. So what it is, you actually have the least total damage by taking both ammo mods. So you can take both damage mods and be pretty close to what you would get if you took damage and ammo. So it's actually very viable to just go all in on damage. Which is one thing that we actually did think about that needed to happen. It needed the ability to just kill things with kinetic damage. There's still not really, I would say there's still not really an overclock that leans into that. EM Refire Booster does, especially with the addition of the accuracy mod now as well. I think that's kind of a thing there. So I think it's a little bit better than I thought, but it's not the most true buff, is what I'm saying. You know, that's what people realized when we sort of actually evaluated the changes that had been made. This wasn't a straight up the gun is just stronger now. It's just a lot of changes, and it's just kind of like, I don't know. It could be more interesting, and I don't know. You don't care about the stubby. You don't care, do you? No, you don't. No. Well, that's the thing. It needed to turn some heads. I think maybe the core gun stuff is actually going to turn some heads. What I'm saying, especially with Necrothermal Catalyst getting like reworked, and things like that, and people actually having to do something other than Hellfire as well.
Oh yeah, the core gun. Yeah, the core gun. I think did what they should do. Right, is kind of like give the weapon a facelift. Say, hey, check me out. I'm Mr. Okay to strong weapon. Try me out. And everyone's like, all right. But Stubby really wasn't that. It was, if you like the current clocks, they're now better. That's basically all the Stubby one was.
If you like the meta way of using the Stubby, good for you. If you don't like using it in the meta way, fuck you. Get fucked.
Continue as you were, because we didn't really do anything, much.
Which is why it's kind of weird that they that was in the trailer more so. Like that, the core gun wasn't mentioned in the trailer.
Yeah.
Do you think there's any chance that has anything to do with the trailer being older than the coil gun rework?
Maybe. I don't know. I think I would definitely say that, they knew that we knew that the Stubby is the most requested weapon change. So if they're doing it, I feel like they were, and no one really gave a shit about the coil gun. So do you
think that's why the coil gun's a bit more dynamic and the Stubby's more just tweaks? Maybe.
Kind of.
Because I think the people talk about the Stubby. They have been for a while. The coil gun just needed some attention. At the same time, I think every change to a coil gun is just good. I think the underrated one actually is well, the overall reload speed has actually gone down because the upgrade doesn't exist anymore. The reload speed upgrade, but they made the base reload speed slightly quicker, and that just feels pretty damn good. Like I was a bit skeptical at first, like because when I saw the changes, I was like, my super mega evil genius ultramagnetic coils build has just gotten better. But when I really started to internalize the changes, I thought, has it actually? But no, it actually has, mainly because of the reload speed thing, though. It's just quicker, just more responsive. I felt like a god last night when I was using it. So there is that. That worked. And yeah, the necrothermal catalyst thing is actually quite good now. There's also that one. So good work on the coil gun. Work on the stubby, as in even neutral, or there's more work to do. Stubby's one of the ones where it just like you either gotta just take one of the cleans and just change it into something actually interesting, or just fucking add another one. Just add something. Just add a new balance to unstables. Like genuinely, just add. It's one of the ones where it's just demanding that. The Zukovs are really demanding that though, and that is something I really want to see. If they touch the Zukovs, will they maybe actually add a new overclock, like straight up? Because they should. It's one of the few weapons that only has 5 overclocks. So
Yeah.
I want to see that. That is a straight up sort of request for the next one. Can we get a new overclock for the Warthog and the Zukovs? They both have 6. Can that happen, please? Because I just come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's quite reasonable. Or reasonable. But that's the weapon balancing. Oh, well, we haven't used the smart rifle. We haven't used the smart...
Did they change something about the smart rifle?
Yeah, they reduced the manual rate of fire
Yeah,
because they added the input buffer. But yeah, the only thing outside of, well, I mean, you could even say you don't even have to say gunner. You could say the only thing outside of engineer and the coil gun was shaped shells on scout for the boomstick, which I think people are overestimating how good that of a buff that is. But maybe I'm just stupid, which I am, by the way. But that's hardly relevant.
Nice, but I'm not sure how much from how it used to be. Like it is nice to use. Full stop. Like it's nice. It does feel good. The range is solid.
Yeah. Well, we talk about the breach cut stuff a little bit. Mainly roll control, because I'm not convinced that it's gotten any better. Because if anything, I think it's slightly worse than it used to be, and I'm angry. Basically, is what I'm saying. I'm gonna have to use it more, but you know, I don't know. That was the one that was really highlighted in the trailer. Which, by the way, I'm not upset about this because I think they're going to do a better job in the next one. But the sort of the line in the trailer of like we've reworked some underloved overclocks or something. That was the line.
More than one.
What? Yeah.
More than one. Which
no.
there wasn't. Was there?
No, not a rework. I would say the closest other one was backfeeding module on the coil gun, only because it's no longer something that reduces damage. It's such a small change. It's replaced the damage penalty with a trail duration penalty, but that's kind of just reorienting it, where it's just like this is for direct damage, which is why we're actually going to nerf the trail. It's like, okay, that's something. I wouldn't call it a rework, but yeah. So roll control did get reworked, but I don't even think it got stronger. So basically, what I'm saying is, I think from the next maintenance update, I want to actually see, because I don't think this really matched the season 4 stuff. I want to see that again, basically, which is kind of greedy, but I don't think that's I think that does align with a lot of other people feel is just what they did in season 4 was just so great in terms of weapon balancing. They did genuinely rework, or at the very least, give some really nice buffs to a lot of overclocks, and it worked very well in season 4's favor. And what I'm saying is, I wasn't even expecting weapon balancing in this update, but the weapon balancing that is here hasn't done too much
I think the weapon balancing ended up being a lot less than they probably would have liked it to be, right? Like it feels like it ended up being the, other than the misc stuff, the least valued or cooked of the content.
Yeah,
right?
and I want to point out this
Like,
isn't. I'm not like upset about this. We know that the thing they put the most effort into this update is the season content toggle and the weapon maintenance system, which is both
yeah,
obvious,
they're up there.
which is both obvious and like it's like obvious and yeah, good. Those are the main things in this update. So I don't know where to go from there. Just because we pretty much know that the weapon balancing is going to be. It's just going to be more in the next update. So I don't really feel justified in being too harsh about this. I don't really.
I don't know. I'm just saying that, like, considering it felt like it was one of the most hyped things, it ended up not really feeling like it. Like I like an example. I mean, I credit this to being, I don't like the stubby, I don't like the coil gun. I don't think anything they've done to change that. But like the changes generally just weren't the same as season fours. It just, they weren't as interesting. They weren't as dynamic. The role control one felt kind of forced, to be honest with you. Like it feels like they were trying to do another rocket barrage change, or double barrel change is more realistic. But I don't know.
But they didn't actually though. You know.
Yeah.
That's the problem. It didn't actually go all the way. It's still a clean. That's the biggest difference between it and those other two examples. It stayed in its category. And the breach cutter is a weapon that has, first of all, it has 7 overclocks, and 3 of them are cleans, and which makes the 7 less interesting than it actually is. So role control deserved to go up a notch, or better than that. So the other clean, obviously, there's lightweight cases, which is like, it's like, depending on who you ask, that's the best overclock in the game. It's not, by the way. Do you want to know why it's not? Because it's boring. Do you know why it's not? And the other one is stronger plasma current, which adds a little bit of damage and a little bit of lifetime. But the lifetime bonus, the projectile lifetime bonus, is the same as what roll control now adds. So what I actually want to see is stronger plasma current go up as a direct damage overclock to either balanced or unstable, just to be big damage, big lifetime. Just double them both. Make it a double barrel. Maybe even do width as well. Although spinning death does width, so spinning death is like unstable width. But yeah, I think I'd actually rather see that now. I don't want to. It's like maybe just leave roll control alone. But yeah, like just the clean damage one, where the other, but the second bonus that it adds is something that roll control now does. Maybe that's the one that deserves a bit of a leg up, especially because it's also competing with lightweight cases, which, like I've just said, some people consider the best overclock in the game. So maybe that one. Although we'll have to get into like that stuff at another point, like what we actually want to see changed. Aside from that, though, because we've already been through like the biggest miscellaneous stuff. I would say except though for the driller balancing. we got utility tool balancing. It's not balancing, it's actually a fix. So where they changed it. So if you have it so you have a 3 satchel charges as your maximum, you'll get 2 from a resupply. That's the change.
Yeah.
But that is a buff to that setup. So
as in, it makes
Tyler.
it an option.
Yeah.
Because never have done a satchel charge before. But I don't know. It's alright. It's still the satchel charge. You can still kind of, like 4 satchels is still not a weak satchel. And a max damage, max aerial, just double damage is still a sufficiently strong satchel. And I think the middling of that isn't going to do too much, I don't think.
Yeah, someone's going to have to discover some like really crazy breakpoint to make that worth it. I don't even know what that could be, It's like, I'm trying to think of something. And I can't. I can't, basically.
It's like, I don't know, you can now take an ammo and a damage. So you will have 3 doing more damage than like 2 doing max or 4 doing less.
Yeah, I can see the argument there because I sometimes find it hard to use up all my satchels. So maybe packing more of a punch into them, but not necessarily halving my amount could be nice.
Yeah. And because it's like kind of, I don't know. I think it is a hole. I know that loophole, but like you get the same amount of satchel charges from resupplying as you do if you sacrifice everything for the amount of satchels you have, right? So theoretically, if you ignore the first one that you're missing, you will gain just more satchel charges that are better, just generally throughout the whole thing. So there is definitely something there, but I don't know. I think it was for balancing reason that they patched it. Really, I mean, not that they claimed that they were, but it's just like the goal is to patch a bug, and now the bug is patched, it might coincidentally make it stronger, right? That kind of thing. Um, I don't believe it's going to have an overwhelming effect on much, but we'll see. I guess, except we probably won't. I doubt there's going to be a video on it.
On what?
There might be, but like for someone breaking down the satchel charge, seeing which one is the best format.
We'll do it.
We won't do it. We
Right.
don't do a good video. You silly boy. We do podcasts where one of the people has his hand in a giant bag of Lego for most of it.
Yeah.
Those are our videos. Yeah. All right.
But hold on.
Is there anything else?
They fixed some typos.
Okay. Still, when are they going to add some typos?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking too. There was that weird gamma contamination thing. Well, I think that's just you.
Yeah.
Well, it's not, because it's not just you. So what it says is fixed gamma contamination not working if you hit armor. Now, the problem I have with that is not the problem, I suppose, but the confusion that arises from that. What kind of armor are we talking about here? Or is it just that, like, an example of a grunt which still has armor? It's a lot of flesh, so the chances are with a weapon like the wave cooker, you're going to be hitting flesh anyway. Which I guess is why it never felt inconsistent. But what I think is the most impactful one would be oppressors, I'd imagine, because I don't think you could actually inflict it from the front on oppressors. I don't know, but you had this impression that it was just infinitely more. I wouldn't even say consistent, just more frequent. What you were sort of saying, basically.
It felt like within a second or two, every enemy was radiated, which compared to before was like it took about a couple, like 3 to 5 seconds, but this time it felt like 1 to 2, and it was reliably that. Like it was, I guess it must have been if it wasn't something new coming into play, I guess I was just getting luckier than normal consistently. But I don't know. It felt stronger. Might not have technically a bit, although it technically was, but it might not have been that playing into it. Because you claim it wasn't, right? You're like, I'm just making this shit up.
Yeah.
It's perfectly normal to you.
Yeah.
It's Mr. Smelly guy.
Yeah, what?
Thinks he knows the wave cooker. Punk.
Smiley face.
Yeah. I don't know. It is weird how like the only driller balancing was like 2 bug patches, but we got it all right with the Zabata last time, so
yeah, I think it's weird. I mean, our thoughts on this kind of thing are they're going to constantly fluctuate. I know that, but Driller's not in a bad place, really.
Other than his grenade, he's in a very, very good place.
I don't know if, I mean, like, and the grenades are actually still probably better than they have been. Only because the HE, I pick it. That's why.
Yeah.
I use it. And you sometimes use neurotoxin. And I've seen people use rippers, some randoms. So maybe it's not all bad in Driller Town. But yeah, I don't want to get into, like, we've already talked a little bit about sort of the next one, what could be and what you might want and things like that. But that's not for today. Also, comments, I just don't think it's the right, just given the sort of circumstances right now, probably not going to feel like talking about them. So we might just leave comments for a bit, and I can sort of pick up some good ones for the next one. Because I think this is it.
This is it.
And I think we could have done a lot worse considering what you're doing. But if this was a let's say less than savoury experience compared to normal, then you can blame Tyler 100%. Then you can.
I don't know.
I do.
Yeah, I do know.
I do know. I do know.
I didn't realise this would be such a huge ordeal. I don't even think I'm halfway done.
Well, you have been
for 5
distracted, I should say. I would say.
All right.
You're not a multitasker, all right? So cut yourself some slack, but also don't. Get. I made the
Hey!
So last night my mum and my sister, they're just watching YouTube on the television in the living room or the lounge, as you might say. And I made the foolish decision to grab the controller and type in Barrel Vision. I was like, oh, who's this? I was just sort of being cheeky, acting on impulse, and I should not have done. All of a sudden, my sister just wanted to just watch Barrel Vision videos, and I just got really annoyed. I put on the most recent drawing stream because I thought that'd be the most okay, because no one's face is in that, and it's marginally interesting. And then she put on the most recent RoboQuest stream, and pointed at me and said, "You need a better camera." And I said no. But then what I did, I actually put on the OG, we spend 14 minutes trying to start a video, and that is still funny as hell. We should do a part 2 to that. We should do a part.
I don't think you can force that kind of thing, Harry. I think that's why it's funny.
There was a thing about Tom, like, seeing someone get like oil. He's like someone spilled like burning oil on themselves, and like in McDonald's, and they were like screaming in pain, and we found that really funny.
Because they didn't care at all, did they? Like, no one really gave a shit.
Yeah, there was something about a muck ambulance. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, that was horrible. What isn't horrible though is the maintenance update. Pretty cool, and everything in it is good, which is not a joke. I think that's actually a high compliment and something that needs to be pointed out. That there isn't anything bad in here. We're just like, they can't do anything wrong. Yes, they can. They want to be held accountable. They want to be criticised and slandered. But no.
They want to know when they've done goof.
I mean, if I thought there was a true goof in here, this might have a bit of more of a negative tone, but it doesn't. But we still pointed out the things that could have been better anyway, but at the same time, it's still neutral plus, and that is an improvement over season 4. So at least we were right about that. So yeah. All right, let's wrap it up. Let's go. So yeah, if you enjoyed this episode of the Barrel Vision podcast, please make sure to like, subscribe, and if you want to stay on top of everything to do with Deep Rock Galactic and Rogue Core, then click the notification bell.
If you enjoyed this episode, you will love any other episode.
Not true. No, that's not true. You won't enjoy any of the episodes from the beginning of season 3 until February this year, because they were all really
What about-
depressing. Cause they...
But before then, when our quality was so fucking dog shit, they probably wouldn't like them as well.
Then,
so
before, what are you talking about?
maybe.
What are you talking? All right, no, let's end it. Come on. Pretty funny that Tom, you were right. He just wasn't there at all, and I won't let him be. Bye. We're going. Bye. Say bye, Tyler.
Hi, Tyler.
That's goodbye from Tyler. That's goodbye from me. Goodbye. What's up, everybody? This is the Ackman here.